In this episode, we'll discuss keepers, leapers, and sleepers, the 7 keys to moderation and responsibility, purpose, impact, and value, and how to create and utilize your need for certainty in the most healthy and beneficial way. Some things to ponder. When it comes to life and work, how do we make it suck less? What instantly comes to mind when you think about the concept of life and work sucking? Do you resist the honest reality that some things just kind of suck? Have you swallowed the gratitude magic so deep that if you're honest, you're not allowing yourself the gift of feeling the safety that comes from connecting with a real-time emotion like, this just kind of sucks? How do you ensure that connecting with real emotions doesn't take you down the slippery slope of entitlement and a victim mindset that blocks your forward movement toward your goals? What in your life and or at work just kind of sucks right now? What does it feel like to bring new gratitude for your ability to share authentically where you're honestly at within your journey without any hyperbolic sugarcoating? Now that you've been brutally honest, what are you now nudged to move towards? What is the next action that you get to initiate and participate with right now? What does this open space now make available for you to tap into for this exact moment? And for what specifically do you now have the bandwidth to engage with deeper passion, stronger resolve? Now, if you want to stop the self-sabotage, raise your standards, and participate with unshakable confidence, you'll want to take the Maximize Your Life quiz found at www.jamesheppner.com/quiz right now. By taking this little quiz, you will discover exactly where you're making your life unnecessarily difficult and exactly where your behaviors are cutting you from the outcomes and goals you crave most. Your quiz results will pinpoint with precise accuracy the exact areas to focus on. This will immediately activate your ability to use your time and resources effectively and instantly set you on your path to create higher level gains with, you know what we want, less strain. Why not get down to the base and discover the truth about what's controlling your life right now? I challenge you. Take a few minutes. You owe it to yourself. You are worth it, and your experience of life depends on it. Give yourself the gift by honoring yourself and taking 5 minutes to invest in yourself. Take the Maximize Your Life quiz now at www.jamesheppner.com/quiz and finally set yourself on the path that will lead you directly to what you want and need most now. Welcome to Weekly Wins and Losses. My name is James Heppner, former real estate entrepreneur turned self-development hacker, coach, and fulfillment strategist. Each week, we bring you a thought to wrestle with that'll help you live fully alive and gain more life. Real life is made up of both wins and losses. Both were designed for your good. That's basic reality. Without facing and learning how to embrace your losses for greater gain, you miss out. You leave 50% of your life experience on the table. So with that, let's begin the show. Mr. Greg Offner, welcome to the show.
Hey, James, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Mr. Offner, he is one of the world's most in-demand experts on the topic of professional performance and navigating disruption. Oh, I like that. Disruption. That's so fun. Apparently, there's some disrupting going on in the Dow today. So his clients, of course, some of the people that you work with, Fortune 100 companies, and he is often asked to keynote at conferences where industry leaders and executives turn to him for new perspectives on how to evaluate performance, eliminate disengagement, and make work suck less. Oh my goodness. We start off power punch. Before the call, this is what you said. I said, how are things going? You said, it's June. I'm off to a bold start. Talk to me, my friend. How do we make work suck less?
That's the question on everybody's minds. And I mean that everybody. Executives, when I work with them, they generally have 3 concerns, 3 things that are waking them up at night. It's, do I have the right people in place? Can I find the right people to put in place? And why are the right people leaving this place?
Mm-hmm.
And on the flip side of that, the folks who are generally in the audience at some of my programs, or just regular people like you and me, folks I have conversations with all day, they do not enjoy what they're seeing out in the world when it comes to work right now. Whether it's the equation of your life from 9 to 5 for this paycheck, and that's the way work has been for a very long time. We're going to buy this chunk of your life in 8-hour increments, in 5-day chunks, for this paycheck, which you'll receive if you're lucky every Friday. Most people it's every other Friday or just once a month. That equation, they're telling me, is broken. And they're also telling their bosses and their businesses this because they're refusing to come in. There were some articles I was reading yesterday about what the leaders can do when these folks refuse to come in after they've said, hey, we're going back to a 3-day work week, a 4-day work week, a full-time work week. We expect you back in the office. People are just not showing up. They're not quitting. They're just staying home. They're doing their work from home and effectively saying to their bosses, make me. So this says to me that work sucks. I mean, we may not come out and say it, but then again, I don't think we have to, because if you look at the catalog of music that's out there in the world right now, James, how many songs do we have about work sucking? You got to take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more. If you want to get into country, you got Dolly Parton's 9 to 5. There are so many songs about work sucking that we don't have to say it out loud. It's already there for us. The question is, what are we going to do about it? And that's what gets me out of bed in the morning, is that the solutions I provide for my clients and the conversations I have with my clients are all about how to elevate the experience of work, how to make this experience we all have in one form or another valuable, worthwhile, memorable, fulfilling.
Let's slow it down for half a second, Greg. I love what you brought.
Oh my God,
so far.
this is the only gear I have, James.
Dude,
I don't know how I can do that.
Dude, when I say slow it down, that means pick it up a level. So this is what I mean. We slow it, on music, it's like slow is smooth and smooth is fast. What I mean to say, I love it. So slow it down as in like get more into nuance. Nuance, not to complicate. Nuance so that we can simplify. Let's get deeper. Let's go down the rabbit hole. When I say slow it down, parse out for me when you say people are not enjoying what they're seeing. So what is the employee or those that are working for or with others, what are they not enjoying? And then also, what are the employers not enjoying? Like, if you could be specific, what are you observing? Like, I have an experience. I work with clients like you do. And so we have this observation, right? And so make work suck less. And it's like people have this thought that apparently work is supposed to suck. And I'm going, well, firstly, I got a problem with that narrative because actually work brings discomfort, and discomfort is what we actually want. Because if we don't have discomfort, then we either are bored or we're depressed. And bored and depression are the two bookends, and in between some places where real life is. Real life is in between boredom and depression. So psychoanalysts will say one side is boredom. It's not fun. Depression's on the far other side, not fun. We want to be in the middle someplace. And that's where we find the tension, the goodness, the disruption. We like it. We like. So how would you say the employer-employee, what do they individually want to see less of and experience less of?
I want to understand when you say work, I think you said work should create discomfort.
Yeah, because discomfort is actually a challenge, and we want to experience challenge. If we don't, we're bored or we become completely satiated with life, and now we're depressed. There's nothing to do.
Yeah. So where I'd want to make sure we're careful in that part of the conversation is that one of the things that frustrates people about work, and I'm talking about mostly the employees, versus the employers, is friction. But to your point about, discomfort, or friction or gravity, without friction, we couldn't run as fast as we're capable of running. Without gravity, our muscles couldn't grow as large as they're capable of growing. So yeah, we do need that push and pull, that tension and release. That's what creates the variety. And you used music earlier. Yeah, the dynamic contrast of loud and soft, fast and slow, that's what keeps us interested in a piece of music. So when I say that we what frustrates people is friction, I'm talking about actually unnecessary friction, or what I call legacy friction. And I live in Philadelphia here in the United States, in Pennsylvania. And in Philly, we have this thing called the Philly shrug. I'm sure it might exist in other places. I don't know what it's called, but It's whenever something is pointed out that shouldn't be a way, but has kind of always been that way. Here in Philadelphia, people go, and they shrug and they go, what are you going to do? And there's a lot of that found in work. And what I find about work itself, what my research has shown, is that there are 3 types of people in any organization. You may meet 5 types of people in heaven, but you're only going to meet 3 in the place you work. You're going to meet keepers, you're going to meet leapers, and you're going to meet sleepers. And we can go into what each of those 3 actually are, but keepers, I think everyone's hearing that word and going, okay, I probably get what that is. Keepers are the folks we want to keep. Yeah, they're the folks who love what they do, where they do it, who they do it with. They see work as a calling. It's not just a career. It's not just a cash on Friday, paycheck scenario. It's a calling.
Working with someone, not for, working with.
Correct, in concert with, yeah. The fastest way to turn a keeper into a leaper or into a sleeper is to not remove unnecessary friction. That's what a keeper wants their leaders to do. A keeper says, get obstacles that are unnecessary obstacles, not opportunities for growth. You and I agree that obstacles can be fuel for growth. But when it comes to work, oftentimes there are obstacles that a leader could remove, but instead goes,
they'll figure it out.
What are you going to do? Right, you'll figure it out.
Or the union, if it's big enough, the union will remind us, slap on the wrist, whatever.
Sure, if you're a union shop, yeah. But you get what I'm saying there. So friction is one of the things that frustrate people that they say, makes work suck. And we did a good job of removing one of the largest legacy pieces of friction over the last 2 years, and that's the commute. Because for a lot of people that are knowledge workers, ever since the dawn of the internet, or I'd say at least the ubiquity of Wi-Fi and laptops, that commute has been nothing but unnecessary friction. And now we finally got rid of it. And there are some bosses and some leaders that are saying, actually, we're going to need you back in the office for a couple of days a week. So that brings me to the second thing that folks are looking for from a job. And when they're not finding it, they're saying this job sucks, and it's purpose. They want to understand that what they're doing has a purpose, and not just to enrich some nameless, faceless investor or shareholder that we're told is the reason we all should come to work. I mean, if you listen to sort of the Milton Friedman, Jack Welch school, it's like shareholder supremacy. That's the reason. If the reason you started a business is to enrich shareholders, I want to have a conversation with you because I want to know who you think your client is. Would your client be happy to know that the only reason you wake up in the morning is to enrich shareholders, not to solve the client's problem? It's to make somebody else wealthy. That's a terrible foundation on which to build a business. You and I have businesses based on what we were talking about before we hit record, that the goal of which is to serve others. That's the guiding principle. And we know that when impact comes first, the income will follow. But these businesses that are built on income first, impact, if we can manage it along the way, folks are tired. They're tired of working for organizations like that because they're not connected with that purpose. They may not even see a purpose. Yeah, so we've got friction, we've got purpose. Impact is purpose is sort of their cousin. Yeah, because the purpose of what we do is great, but what's the impact of what we do?
So the question is, how do we strengthen both our mind and body effectively? Maybe I should add, why is strengthening our mind and body even something that we might want to seriously consider implementing on a daily basis? It's all about maximizing your opportunities, maximizing your ability to experience a rich life instead of a mediocre life, maximizing your ability to bring to yourself and others around you what you were set on this earth to deliver and enjoy. What's not to love about stretching yourself and experiencing the truth about the incredible capacity that you actually have? Listen, I really value you, and I want to help you maximize your life by sharing a few of the specific strategies that have made all the difference in my life. I want you to feel mentally and physically strong so you'll be well prepared when you are most needed, so that your mind and body will be entrained to know exactly what to do when others are running for the exit signs, and so that you'll activate your ability to easily identify the opportunity no matter how challenging the situation. So, I've carefully put together a well-curated resource that will make it super easy for you. Simply go to www.jamesheppner.com/self-help hacker, where you will be able to see some of my favorite books and specific biohacking modalities, supplements, and biohacking experiences that will allow you to feed your mind and body the specific and exact ingredients that will give you the mental and physical edge. Now, I should note, you'll see listed a grouping of biohacking experiences like whole body cryotherapy, bone density, etc., that you can experience at our biohacking lab located on the west coast of Canada in White Rock, BC. If you live nearby, feel free to book your session as you wish. Also, you'll want to take note of the specific discount code section that allows you to purchase products from my favorite vendors anywhere from 10 to 25% off by simply using the discount code JAMES. I hope you enjoy. To your life force, to your strength, here we go.
Yeah, so we've got friction, we've got purpose. Impact is purpose is sort of their cousin. Yeah, because the purpose of what we do is great, but what's the impact of what we do? Yeah, so you and I want to serve others, but what's the impact? Well, for me, it's making work suck less. Your impact. Your listeners hopefully have identified or gotten clear on what their impact.
I think they're still trying to figure out who I am.
Well, look, who we are.
No, I get it. Yeah, I know where you're coming from. I'm teasing you, man. I get it.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
I have those Zoolander moments, often. I look in the mirror and I go, who am I? No. So, and so the last thing, and maybe the most important, is value. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of the sum total of your purpose, your impact. Mm-hmm. And what instead of just saying friction over and over again, I'll say process. Mm-hmm. Because the process of driving to work is where the friction is found. The process of navigating a clunky CRM that doesn't work the way you need it to, that's where friction is found. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the process of having 4 people to approve an exception to a corporate policy when really only one needs to be involved, that's where friction's found. Mm-hmm. So the 3 places that I encourage and work with my clients to identify opportunities for improvement are in their purpose, in their process, and in defining and getting clarity around their impact.
It's fast. Go ahead, listening.
I was just going to say, when organizations are focused on those 3 areas, they have the foundation to create what I call a performance agreement. And that's to define the relationship between employee and employer, not like you find in an employment agreement, not the legalese, that says you won't steal, you won't punch people at work, the stuff. I call that the back of the ticket experience. Mm-hmm. So if you've been to a hockey game or you've been to any sporting event, or if you've been to a concert, on the front of the ticket is what they owe you. Yeah, that's who's performing, when it's happening, where you're sitting. That's what the performers owe you. On the back of the ticket, remember when we used to have tickets? I guess some people don't. They're listening to this, they're going, you mean on my cell phone? What are you talking about? Well, if you scroll down a bit, there's verbiage there. It's really fine print. We old guys like us used to find it on the back of a ticket. It would be, don't storm the field, don't throw things on the stage. That's what the performers, expect of us. Mm-hmm. That's just like your employment agreement at work. The performance agreement is the unspoken stuff. Mm-hmm. That the band's going to play their greatest hits, that they're going to leave you on a high note with that encore, that you're going to cheer as loud as you can, even louder when the opposing team is trying to make a play so they can't hear each other, right? Or that you're going to stand there, even though you know the encore is coming, and you're going to yell, one more song, or that the players, even if the game's won and the season is done, they're going to go out and leave it all out on the field. Mm-hmm. You won't find that written on a ticket. You won't find that written in their contract, but that's an expectation. Mm-hmm. That's an unspoken agreement between us and the other party. Those exist in the work in the business world too, but I think they've been forgotten or just ignored over the last several years.
Well, I think we've entered this. Yeah. What do you think about this? Right. I think we've entered into this era where there's this grand this grandiose movement towards selective gratitude. And so what's other to do if you don't have gratitude? You have this massive, massive need for expectation. And expectation is a little bit like, people talk about rights and freedoms. Sure, let's talk about it. The only thing is rights and freedoms are only possible if there's rights and responsibilities. Unless you choose to be responsible as a human, there shall be no rights and freedoms. Rights and freedoms come because you choose to be responsible. So I like what you say when you talk about performance agreement. It's like the unspoken as into like, yeah, we're going to perform the show, but let it be known, if you guys are going to be arseholes, we're going to stop performing. Like if you're going to start shooting guns into the audience, we're going to have to leave. Like that's just going to be part of it. Like these are things that apparently aren't spoken, but I like what you're talking about when you're drawing this together. You're making me think something about keepers. So often, employers are like, and so just to bring this all kind of, swirl the cage here a little bit, keepers. So what can we do to create keepers? And it's like, honestly, and you brought something really important to the surface, and that is if you have a transactional business. Now, Amazon is what it is. I'm not pro or against. I have Amazon Prime. But if it is just to make the shareholder wealthier, performance agreement, when you tap into a missional company, and granted they have a mission, but when you tap into missional versus transactional, it looks totally different. And what I find, tell me what you think, but when we find ourselves in the space of having aligned with a transactional company, the performance agreement, we tend to resent it. And honestly, we begin to see a whole bunch of drama, to your point, on the unnecessary friction. Like I've been on a drama reduction program for the last 6 years. What does that look like? I don't hire future problems. I don't hire them if I know it's now. I don't choose missions that are going to create these things in the future. And when I look at it, how often, even us as employers, how often do we not want to leap? Certain people, certain employers want to leap, or even just owning our business. We want to leapfrog. And leapfrogging is choosing not to keep who we really are. And I think if we realign by making proper selection, like, why are we really doing all of this? Like, and I love it when you cried into your cereal. Perhaps you had a little taste, and you're like, these salty tears. You're going, are these keepers? Are these leapers? Are these sleepers? And it activated you to choose to show up and present something. What is your purpose? What's your impact? What's your value? Right? What do you think when you contemplate? So just tooling through what you just finished saying, drama reduction program. And when we think about purpose, impact, and value, how can we as humans get to the base note, like the infrastructure, the thing upriver that's creating all the bodies to float down? The switch, what is the switch, if there could be one? And there might be a few, but let's just kind of pitch and catch something. What's the switch that we have to get really curious about? First, perhaps accept something, and then what is that switch? What would your response be?
Yeah, well, and I want to just touch on something you said earlier about, transactional versus missional companies. There's no one right or wrong answer. And when it comes to a transactional company, there are going to be people who want, in terms of an employment experience, what they're offering. Mm-hmm. They may not be people that we share the same work philosophy with, but our philosophy isn't the perfect one. It's just my philosophy and your philosophy. Keeper is more about the person and their goals, understanding what they want out of an employment experience. And so if you're a transactional company, you've got keepers, leapers, and sleepers, just like a mission-driven company has keepers, leapers, and sleepers. So I just wanted to make that clear. To answer your question, one of the 7 keys of success, 7 keys that I've identified as contributing to the growth and development of the individual, not just the employee, but the individual. I call them the 7 keys of success, and they're based off of the musical scale. So they're going to start with C instead of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, like our alphabet. The musical alphabet is C, D, E, F, G, A, B. So you talked about, what do we have to get curious about? Well, curiosity is that C. It's the first key right there, is curiosity. Because we have a culture, at least the North American culture, that is built up around certainty. And it's shown, it's exemplified in the way that we learn even. That the reason you go to school isn't to learn, Not if we're honest. You go to school to get grades. You get grades to go to the next thing. Then you go to the next thing to get to the next thing. We're never where we are. We're always where we're going. Curiosity forces us to be in the moment, in where we are. But it's a skill. It's a skill that isn't developed in many people. In fact, I'd say in more people, it's actually suppressed. When we're young, we're taught, curiosity killed the cat. I mean, cats have 9 lives. That's my response. But curiosity, when applied effectively, because there's also the negative of curiosity. If you are curious without purpose, that can cause a problem for an individual. But curiosity, when applied effectively, unlocks tremendous business potential for disruption, for additional profit opportunities, additional services, better ways to serve our client. But if you look at most corporate training programs, there's no module about developing curiosity.
It's fascinating. You link curiosity and, of course, I wouldn't say the antithesis, because certainty is something that unless you and I have, we don't move. So certainty is a great muscle. It's just if we have an overdeveloped muscle of certainty and an underdeveloped muscle of uncertainty. Tony Robbins talks about, to the exact degree, right? And to the exact degree that we can comfortably handle. So the key word is comfortably handle uncertainties, to the exact degree we're going to actually live life. And who here wants to not live life fully? Not just live life, but live life fully. And when I think about certainty, what is it, right? To me, certainty is clawing your way to knowing. I know, and apparently finding strength through the I know. The only thing about life is life ends up being really nice when we gain strength from I know and I don't know. Imagine this. One day you're going for a walk and you realize you can take a step forward because the end of the earth isn't there. The edge hasn't happened. You can take a step forward. So your left foot moves beyond the right. That's why you do it. The only thing is, you lay on your back late at night, you see the stars. Think about this. I don't know how the stars just float up there. There's science theory on how this works, but how they don't collide and how we don't see fireworks all day long. So it's a little like this. I'd like to hear your perspective on this. So the I know and the I don't know, it's a little bit like polarity. Instead of good or bad, these two tensions serve each other. We're not talking about drama. We're talking about actually getting real with when people often solve for, they are so certain. They're trying to say, I know, I know, I know, I know. But really what it is typically is it's repressed uncertainty. So it's a fleeing away, to your point earlier, fleeing away from your presence. And how does it work to be not present? It doesn't work. People call you on it all day long. You don't collaborate. You don't build business association. You just aren't there. And if you're not there, where are you? You're not engaged. So what's your thought on and of course, we've all been through this whole COVID. I was going to say, well, North America, but the truth is the world has been through COVID. Like it's everywhere, right? And so what do you think we're learning and society is kind of waking up to in relation to an over indulgence of certainty, and now reckoning actually that we have a strong, unhealthy muscle of repressed uncertainty? Because a lot of this clawing towards certainty isn't just seeing if we could take a step forward, the next step. What it ends up being is we're trying to actually numb and dumb ourselves away from uncertainty. And therefore, back to the point, to the exact degree we can comfortably handle uncertainty, we're going to enjoy life. So a lot of people aren't enjoying life right now. So what's your thought on that?
So you're talking about building resilience,
right?
And I don't want it to seem like I'm anti-certainty. I mean,
No.
I certainly there's an important distinction to be made that at a cellular level, we're constantly changing.
Mm-hmm.
And let's take it sort of to the everyday speak versus the science geek speak. So at a cellular level, we're always changing. A river is always moving. Mm. So to say that we're certain about something in a philosophical sense can only apply in this moment. In the very next moment, the circumstances of the world has changed.
It's static. Certainty is for right now, but things are moving.
Yeah. So certainty is momentary.
Mm-hmm.
Curiosity is forever. So there is a bit of a mindset shift that's required to say it's not that certainty is bad, it's that curiosity leads to more opportunity. Mm-hmm. So that having been said, the question I think you're asking about where we're at now on the heels of COVID and you know, what is society learning? It's really the value of moderation. Because I think in all things, the pendulum is either swung too far to one side or too far to the other. And it seems very difficult to find a center, a balance. You know, you mentioned freedom earlier, and then you mentioned responsibility. And I can't think of who the comedian is that said, you know, it's a shame they made a Statue of Liberty on the East Coast. It's a shame there isn't a Statue of Responsibility on the West Coast. Because that's really a challenge that we here in the U.S. have, is that everybody wants freedom, but nobody wants to take responsibility or accountability. You know, I wish that's what the A in USA stood for, was the United States of Accountability.
Beautiful.
So there is a real challenge, I think, in bringing these 7 keys of success into the front. Because, you know, I think of what an executive told me a few weeks ago. He said, I don't get fired for not developing my people, but I get fired for missing my numbers. And I thought, my God, he just doesn't see it. If only you developed your people better, they would ensure you always hit your numbers. That's, again, income and impact. If we chase income, maybe we got time for impact. That's what that CEO was telling me. What he's missing, what I think a lot of us missed because we're moving so fast, and the uncertainty of slowing down, you know, am I going to fall behind? If we simply slowed down to speed up, if we simply focused on impact and let that accelerate our income, the result, the sustainable result, would be so much better than most of us can imagine. But we're fixated, and it's a very human tendency to do this. It's how our brain's wired. We're fixated on loss avoidance. It's kind of like our primary operating directive. Yeah, that ever since we were human, ever since we had a brain, the number one command of that brain is don't let this meat sack die. This whole meat sack that I'm controlling, the brain says I can't let it die. And so that's what we do. We walk around going, don't die, don't die, don't die, don't die. Ooh, pretty flower, don't die, don't die, don't die. But now in this world we live in, that operating system becomes a bit antiquated, and it sort of pushes back against what we really need to do, which is embrace opportunity. It's as we're talking, I keep coming back to that word of moderation. If all you do is go to the gym and flex with a big barbell, flex your bicep in an upward and locked position, yet like the top of the rep, if you're picturing a weightlifter with the weight at the top of the rep, your bicep's going to explode. I mean, your muscles literally won't be able to handle it at some point. You won't have done yourself any good. Similarly, if you just hold the dumbbell down by your side and you never flex your bicep, well, you're also not going to build muscle. It's the way that combination of tension and release works that creates growth. It's that freedom and accountability in concert with each other, in balance. I don't want to get political, but it's Democratic ideas and Republican ideas in balance, not one or the other. It's both. And that's what we're missing. We're in this fight or flight mode that's really toxic to the way that we're living. And it's also carrying into the way that we operate organizations. That's why work sucks. Because work is just an extension of that fight or flight experience. And that's not what people want.
That's so fascinating, right? When you say it's not what people want, gee, whoever applies for a career, whoever steps foot, takes courageous action as an entrepreneur, whoever ever wants to do something that's going to create a problem, which brings me to the point, the human doesn't ever choose to act on problem. My father-in-law is an alcoholic. If I'd observe his life, I'd say alcoholism is a problem for him. However, for him, alcoholism is a solution. So I think to get beneath it all, we have to get really curious, to your point, on how is this a solution for people? You know, you look about, you know,
I would say the
edge of communication.
Sorry, real quick. I just want to say alcoholism is the result. Alcohol is the solution. I don't know what the problem is, and I don't want to get into diagnosing your dad, but I want to be really clear. You know, alcoholism is an addiction, and it's a disease that results from using alcohol as a solution. So spot on, but just wanted to, I think it's an important
Yeah,
clarification to make.
yeah. So then if you look at it going, well, wait a minute, what is the method of communication? And you talk, I got to know you, you talk about speaking and communication and perceptions and perspectives. One of the things that we all have to reckon, and I know you had some issue, and if you want to share in a little bit about your voice and how you had to retrain it and get back to, right? If we think about it, the human has had the ability to communicate virtually effortlessly. Think about this. Where's willpower needed to speak with empathy? It's not. The human being, as a little child, you can communicate without saying a word. The adults understand what you have to say. It goes beyond language. It goes beyond need of vocal cords. When I think about what would happen if we just finally settled down a little bit and recognize that there was a whole bunch of anxious striving going on, pedaling away from being present, fastly trying to moderate ourselves away from much of what life is, the good news. All of life is here to serve us. When I hear moderation, firstly, let me say this, Gregory, you look and sound like my mother. My mother, now she looks a little different. She has long hair, but I'll tell you something. You sound like her because I'm a pretty extreme person and I have learned moderation in everything. So I got a question for you. How do you, I'm going to hold you to task here on this one if you don't mind. I love 7 keys with, what you talk 7 keys. That's brilliant. Here's the thing though. I want to know, how do you handle the 7 keys with moderation and responsibility? Because that's the work. We all have answers, but we gain a lot of our strength from also focusing on what we don't know. And so you're not saying I have all the answers. You're just saying, hey, listen, with moderation, I do everything, including the 7 keys, and I'm also responsible with it. How do you do that?
Well, right now, the global business community spends $300 billion a year on training and development initiatives. When you dig into those numbers, we find that 98% of that spend is applied towards technical development. So it's job-specific skills, how to be a better accountant, how to fill out your TPS reports, how to send emails with subject lines that get people to open them, right? If you're in sales or marketing. Things that are specific to your job. That other 2% goes to these non-tangible soft skills. I like to call them tactical skills because nobody wants to be soft, but everybody wants to be tactical. So I call them tactical skills. It's my little AM DJ voice there. I call them tactical skills. So when you ask about moderation, we've got an incredible imbalance right now, leaning 98% technical, 2% tactical. But the worst part of that is that 2% is generally available to senior level leaders and above. So you're not getting negotiation training. You're not getting empathy. You're not getting communication skills. You're not getting gratitude or resilience. You're not getting executive coaching, professional coaching. And yet in the world of sports, we have coaches starting in 3rd or 4th grade. Why is it that in business, we don't have coaches until the highest senior level? That would be like never giving a kid a coach until they made the MBA. That doesn't make any sense. But yet that's what we do in business. So when you talk about moderation, the 7 keys are my attempt at moderating the other side of that coin. If we even take that switch from 2% to 4%, we'll have doubled the focus of the global business community on tactical skills, and we'll still have more than 95% of the spend on technical job-specific training.
Now that's an interesting play, right? Because what I always think about is that there's a lot of people who, when they're in a jam, they just hope and pray and wish it away. It's crystal ball gazing. Fantasy living is to say, and patience is good. I think patience is helpful because adopting a let's see attitude makes room for time to happen, which makes room for evidence to appear. You want to harmonize with nature, not the other way around. Nature doesn't say, we'll harmonize with you. It's flip opposite, right? So for me, it's always about how to act instead of waiting and hoping. and praying. Now, all those things might be helpful. However, how can we participate with it now? So here's the thing. I think your point's relevant. My question is this. You and I are both in the personal development industry, and you're right. We create luxuries for people. However, when I contemplate, for example, on the point of empathy, empathy is a language you don't have to teach. Empathy, we as humans all know. How can we as society, what is needed for us to stop giving away so that we're going to own our power, regardless if we work for someone that has become overtly concerned about themselves and not us? How can we not wait, hope, and or pray and just sit there in that dystopic mess? And how can we just learn to entrust and act with the empathy that we have? Because if we want to be change makers, if we're going to wait for somebody at the top to change it, it ain't going to happen. It might happen, but we might be waiting forever. The influencing doesn't mean that you have to be at the top. You know, humans, we actually crave a powerless power. Powerless power means you're humble, which means you own your smallness and your bigness. You don't just own your bigness. So the whole structure is if we wait for these people thinking that they're going to control our life, well, we've given our controls to them. So how could we reenact? So speak to me about a little bit of what were some of the lessons that you learned. Tell the audience here your story. And I think you said lost your voice and you couldn't communicate in the same way, but at the same token, you were able to translate the cares of you, the feels of you with others.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of how to answer. That's a very big question you asked. How can people create that change? Well, I've come to learn that there's only two forces that create change. That's inspiration or expiration. So, you know, inspiration is fleeting. Zig Ziglar, one of my favorite mentors, used to say, inspiration is like showering. It doesn't last, and I recommend you do it daily. So, you know, expiration is my way of saying a crisis. We see something in the field of psychology called post-traumatic growth. Mm-hmm. And that's after a traumatic incident, however you might define that traumatic incident to be. Individuals generally approach a season of growth. And so I have great hopes for the world right now that we're going to see some post-traumatic growth coming on the heels of COVID. And speaking personally, since you asked about my story, you know, I had kind of everything going in 2015 when this story started. I had a professional entertaining career. I was a professional musician and singer. Mm-hmm. I was playing on stages all over the world, Vegas, Paris, 5 continents. I mean, you name it, I was getting to do it. And
you're looking like my mom doing it.
yeah, well.
Just kidding. I'm just teasing you, man. Go ahead.
if people could see me, I'm bald. So.
Well, they can't see you. This is gonna be on YouTube. They can see you.
Well, you know, so I don't know if I should feel bad for your mom or what there, but
it's all a compliment. I love her, so I apparently love you. Go ahead. Sorry.
But no, man, you're good. So, all right. So 2015, got this entertainment career. I'm moonlighting during the day as a corporate executive. So I've got this 9-to-5 job that pays really well, but I'm not super interested in it. Just, I happen to be good enough at it. And that was good enough for me. And so everything's kind of going along, you know. I got my day job that pays for my trips and my night job that fills me up spiritually, and everything's great. But then in July of 2015, at that time, my raspy voice got even raspier and raspier and raspier. And it got to the point where I showed up to do a gig and I opened my mouth to sing and nothing came out.
Wow.
I couldn't make a sound.
Wow.
And in the weeks that followed, I would see specialists and doctors who examined me with all sorts of instruments and then told me if I didn't do something right now, I'd never speak again. That in 2 weeks to 2 months, my voice would become so paralyzed that it would be irreversibly damaged. I'd never sing again, they said. But if I did something now, it's possible that my speaking voice could be saved. That, for me, was a death-like diagnosis. The way that impacted me would have been exactly the way someone coming in and said, Greg, you got cancer, you got 8 weeks to live. Exactly. And that's not hyperbole, because to someone who communicates for a living, I may as well be dead. If I lost my voice,
Your value.
yeah, I can learn sign language. Yes, I would learn to move on, but that would be an existential death that I can tell you right now, because of where I wound up a couple months later, I was not ready to, I didn't have the tools at that moment in time to navigate that. So 15 surgeries, several years later, I've now made a tremendous change. I work for myself. I speak at conferences all over the world. I help organizations create the change that I'm talking to you about today to make work suck less. I would not have made that decision but for the diagnosis and the potential loss of my voice. That was the catalyst for me.
It was because of, not in spite of, because of.
And so I looked back at that, James, and I said, I'm not a dumb guy. I'm not unintelligent. You know, I mean, I studied philosophy and psychology in school. I'm curious about how the human brain works and how we structure our thoughts to make persuasive arguments. I think that's why I did well in sales and sales leadership. But even knowing all that and having some of those tools in my toolkit, I still didn't do it. It took a critical diagnosis. Why? I got curious about why. And I wondered if I could find the answer, how I could help others apply that so that they could create the change that they were interested in doing, in making in their life, but without having to undergo the diagnosis. And that's where I learned that the only two things that drive change are inspiration or expiration. And what's disappointing is that most people see inspiration as frou-frou, woo-woo, crunchy granola, Tony Robbins, high-fiving type of stuff. And so they don't want anything to do with it. And instead they sit and they suffer and they wait for expiration. They won't tell you that that's what they're waiting for, but their actions speak louder than any words they could utter. They're waiting to expire.
And if you just try, I'm sure you can relate with this, if you just try to nudge them towards suggesting that maybe their story isn't over, they hedge against that and protect that argument, that narrative, you know, and who knows why it is, other than, let's be honest, I have empathy for people who do this because everybody wants to connect. You go into a store, you go into a coffee shop, the first thing people normally say is hello. The next thing is they advance their connection. So oftentimes it's, how's the weather out there? Do you like the weather? Whatever. And so it's, instead of, I've realized for myself, instead of labeling what people try to do, and though it seems like they're empathizing with a problem, but often that's where connection begins. I'm not saying that's the way I like it, but we empathize with, apparently the weather is a problem. But if we can't connect there, we typically don't move towards empathizing with possibilities. And empathizing with possibilities is where we go unstuck. Right. And so when I hear you talk about post-traumatic growth, I would agree with you 100%. I'm rooting for what you're talking about, and I hope that happens. My concern, and so I don't see this as a problem, I see this as an opportunity, and that is, how can we ensure we don't become addicted to our trauma bonds? So the trauma,
that's
right. And so the trauma of uncertainty, the trauma
you're talking about, you're talking about the stories. So right? I think back to, you know, it's 2010, 2011. I'm sitting in my apartment in Toronto and I'm watching Occupy Wall Street play out on TV. Now, in a very elementary way, Occupy Wall Street boils down to the belief that the debt we have is permanent. Let me explain. It would be very simple to take down the banking system. God, this is going to a dark place, but just hear me out, everybody. It'd be very simple to take down the banking system.
I hear you, Mother. Yes, I hear you, Mother.
Yeah.
In a dark place.
Just stop paying. Because the banks pay their people, they pay their rent, they keep the lights on with the money, the income that they make from people paying what they owe. I'm not advocating people not paying what they owe, but I'm saying the whole impetus of Occupy Wall Street was that there's something out of whack with this relationship. Not fair, not right, whatever it is, right? So if society decided to band together and stop paying their credit card payments, you can't kill everybody, They can't come after everybody. There's not enough time in the judicial system for everybody to go through that process. So they would create an alternative, creating a new path. So what the heck does any of that rambling have to do with what we're talking about? Well, let's go back to the stories we tell ourselves. Not paying your credit card bill is going to be tough. Yeah, it's going to ding your credit score. There's going to be a whole lot of perceived negative implications. But if we wait it out, if we get past the hump of discomfort, all of a sudden there emerges a new path, a new possibility on the other side. Similarly, with any hardship that we're encountering right now, there is a level of perceived discomfort that is our hump. And once we allow ourselves to get past that, now new possibilities exist. The challenge is we so closely identify with the stories that we've told ourselves about that difficulty that it's tough to break. I think these are your words. It's tough to break those bonds. Mm-hmm. So the point that I'm trying to make is we need skills. We need skills to overcome or to reimagine the stories. For example, a story that I held about myself before my vocal surgery was that I didn't have anything of value outside of my ability to be a sales executive. From a professional standpoint, I wasn't an engineer. I wasn't a doctor. I didn't have a law degree. What else could I offer the professional world except what I've done these last 15 years? I allowed my past to dictate my future because of the strength of those stories. And it was only till I got that intervention where life popped in and said, hey, buddy, we're going to silence you for a couple of months and just give you some time to think. Mm-hmm. Really look deep in the mirror and without any words, try and figure out who you are, what you stand for, and what's important to you. And these skills that are found within the 7 keys, and I'll just list them real quick. It's curiosity, drive, energy, focus, gratitude, attitude, and belief. As I develop those skills within myself, and as other people develop them within themselves, we all of a sudden find an opportunity to write a new story, a reason to get past that hump of discomfort, to see the new path. And sometimes it takes, a coach like yourself. It takes an outside observer. It's hard to read the label when we're inside the bottle, some people have said. Sometimes it takes an outside perspective to help us with that, but we can always take the first step on our own. There's only 2 ways to change what we think. We either change our inputs, what we're taking in, or we change our outputs, what we're doing. Yeah, so if you've never tended a garden, go till a garden for a day. You'll have a thought that's brand new to you. Go do something different. Change what you're doing. Yeah, that's your output. Or change what you're consuming. If you're always reading ESPN's updates or Popular Mechanics, go read a book on architecture. Go watch a TED Talk about, string theory or something. You will come up with a new idea if you change your inputs or you change your outputs. Is this making sense?
100%, 100%. And that's like super, super simple. Let's do this. When you talk about adjusting your story, why don't we do this? I'm going to drop one thing in that I think could really get to the undertow. So it's like, this is master switch stuff. So if you think about going upriver, finding out where all the bodies are coming from, instead of just yanking the bodies out that are floating downstream, we go upriver and we see what's happening. So we get really curious, right? And so I'm going to drop something that came and floated to the surface for me while you were talking. And then you go and do the exact same. You just share something that comes to heart for you that you think might be master switch, right? And so if you want to bring together some things you've said some brilliant things. For me, one of the master switches is when we make a decision. So you change the, perhaps it's what happens when you change the input and the output kind of together. And that's an attitude, a shift. It's a decision that life owes me nothing. So we apparently have this entitlement thing now where it's not fair. So you dropped that earlier. People think it's not fair. As soon as you think it isn't fair, you're always going to resist the reality and you're not going to want to participate with what you get, no matter what it is. Well, you're going to participate with the good surprises, but the ones that you didn't predict and the ones you didn't prefer, you're going to look upon those with disdain. So my thing is life owes me nothing based on How can we switch? And so listeners, the idea here is how do we shift, and even in the subtlest way, for helping us build a new narrative. And I love your technique. Like you read a different magazine, like of course, what you fill in, how you inform yourself changes your life. So mine would be, life owes me nothing. What would you say yours could be?
Well, one is taken from Tony Robbins, in fact, which is, if it can't be easier, let me be stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of my own would be, why not me?
Mm-hmm. Oh, so good. Why not? Oh, so good.
I mean, growing up,
I've lived that story, my friend. I get it.
Growing up as a musician, there were a lot of people around me who, when I said I wanted to, move to LA and be a rock star, because who doesn't when you're a kid and you play the drums? But I wanted to move to LA, and a lot of people would tell me, that's a tough business. People don't really succeed in that. God, you got to be really special to succeed in that. Or, somebody once told me drummers are a dime a dozen. That's what they told me. So you're going to go out there and you're going to get lost in the sea of all these other drummers. And man, I took that shit to heart. I really talked myself down.
Mm-hmm.
And I shouldn't say I never. It took me a long time to recover from that.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a long time to be able to look in the mirror and go, why not me?
Mm-hmm.
There's tons of other people on those keynote stages. Why not me? What's so special about all of them? Why not me?
Mm-hmm.
If I put in the work, if I'm there for what I believe is a noble purpose, I'm not just there to try and suck as much money as I can out of the conference organizers. I'm actually there trying to deliver 2, 3, 4, 5 times the value that they're paying me to their audience. If I'm there for a noble cause, why not me? Why not?
And when life gives you lemons, I think, like you say, everything in moderation. This doesn't
Time
just
for
go
vodka. Oh no, everything in moderation. Sorry,
right?
Yeah, that's it.
Right? Yeah, time for vodka. I love that. So now my mother's drinking vodka. That's nice. No, here's the thing, right? Why not me? Like, a time for vodka. There you go. But it's like, yeah, why not me? Like, my vocals went. Why not me? I checked out of life for a couple of years. I kind of owned a story in a disempowering way. And I thought, man, poor old me, eh? Why not me? And it's like, yeah, why not me? Like, I'm going through this, why not me? And life owes me nothing. So I get to be here. I think about the privilege, Gregory, right? Like, and I know one of your keys of 7 is to be grateful. Like, there's something called gratitude, which just says, like, I get to be here and experience this, and I'm going to spend my time focusing on why it's not fair. Why not me?
Well,
right?
Yeah. I mean, so I don't, yeah. So there's something that I call the Nancy Kerrigan moment. And anybody who knows who Nancy Kerrigan is will probably know what I'm talking about. If you don't, Nancy Kerrigan was a ice skater, a figure skater, who one particular year, I forget when it was poised to sort of be like the win all, crush all categories female skater in the Olympics. And someone, I forget the guy's name, but basically bashed her leg after a practice with an iron pipe. I think broke her ankle, and just that was going to be it for her. And the clip that played over and over again when that happened was Nancy Kerrigan, screaming like, "Why me? Why anybody?"
Mm-hmm.
Super valid question.
Mm-hmm.
But isn't that the reaction that we all have when something goes wrong? Yeah, it's like, well, why me? And what I learned is that that's okay as a reaction, but it's not okay as a response. Yeah, it's okay as a momentary, like, oh man, this really sucks. We all have that. It's natural. It is not natural to be positive a bajillion % of the time, all the time. Everything's great in roses. It's called toxic positivity, y'all. But it's natural to have that reaction. And then the skill is moving into a response of, so what can I do with this?
How can I participate? It's inviting me to engage. This is not offering me the invitation to check out. As a matter of fact, you want to lose your bearings. You want to feel like there's nothing you can do, no impact, no purpose. You just check out. The why me. If I think about one of my platforms is weekly wins and losses. I get on, it's a global, every week, Friday, no charge. People from around the world come in and they share a win and a loss. And here's the thing, right? Oftentimes, like you say, our instant response is, why me? And you know what? Honestly, that's normal. But we get to decide if what's normal in the moment becomes normal long term. And why me long term gets you stuck, and will just create a bunch of self-induced suffering typically. I mean, I look at my story, and that's what it created for me. I checked out of life for like 2.5 years back over a decade ago. And I successfully found a way to sleep 18 and a half hours a day for 2.5 years. I tried to sleep my life away. I didn't want to kill myself, but I didn't want to be here. So how do you do this? Well, you just overdose of melatonin over and over and over again. So one of the things that this is all coming ahead for me, our little talk here, it's been so great, Gregory, is at the end of the day, it seems to me like so many people want to be Superman. People, women, Superwoman, Superman, whatever. They have this expectation of themselves to be that. However, the true appreciation is when we own the fact that we're just a man and just a woman. If we're just a man and just a woman, it's kind of like our feet are in the dirt. So there's grounding going on. Gravity's pulling us down. So that's the good news. We're like right close to what we're going to return to someday, which is dust. And our hands and our arms are like flopping in the air. They're like in the air. So we're both down and up. Physics wouldn't be if it's not the up and down, the life force. And so, analysts will say that you never want to say that I'm the best at ever. You never want to say I'm the best entrepreneur. You never want to say I'm the expert and the best at anything. And the reason you don't want to do this is you want to be a just good enough person. Here's why. Because if you have it all figured out, nothing can pierce you. And when you have answers, you're basically fueling into, I know, and really it's a bunch of repressed uncertainty. And you can get poked just like that. Somebody pokes at the structure, something happens, and all of a sudden your tears go from the beautiful 2-week tear you had a cereal bowl of tears, my friend, by the end of 2 weeks. And it goes from 2 weeks to being like 3 months, 3 years, like me, 2.5 years. So you want to be a just good enough. Now, I'm not saying that we don't like work hard at developing, but we want to be just good enough. We never want to own the role. We're like, oh, we're the best at this. No, we're like, I will try the very best that I can, but we are just humans. And unless we're just humans, we're never going to realize that there's stars and there's dirt and we are here. And we get to, and the one thing I love about the reason I wanted you on the show, to be honest, is in both times in your life. So pre the vocals and post, both times you aligned with your desire. Life demands of us many things, but a human being is a divided self. The human being has a demand and a desire. It takes a courageous soul, especially the first half of life, to align with your desire. Because like you said, we fear we're not progressing fast enough. Honestly, COVID, what it ended up being, largely, society is fearing we're not progressing fast enough. And this is why things are just getting kind of crazy, right? And so when I think about all of this come together, what I love, who you are as an individual, I love many things about you, but one of the core things is you're modeling for society the importance of aligning with your obsession and your desire of your heart. Because when you do, that's how you stay tethered to the unconditional love. And that's how you stay away from performance anxiety and performance-based love. Last question I have for you. Tell me, Gregory, where is there an area in your life that you struggle? Be honest. Where do you struggle? My audience loves this because this is not an accolade show. This is a real show. This is a show,
well,
right? Go ahead.
Yeah. So right now, I'm struggling balancing being a dad and a business owner, sort of a father to this business, and a partner. It is outside of when I went to military school, it's the most demands on my time from different parts of my life that I've ever had to deal with. And I remember, this is going to be a bit of a long-winded answer, but hopefully it's helpful and interesting.
Please. Yeah, I love it.
I've played hockey ever since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And I remember one time in particular, but I'm sure it happened more than once, my dad asking me after a game where we lost, he goes, did you try your best? And I didn't know. I thought, how do you know? Unless you're dead, how do you know if you tried your best? I mean, I tried. Damn, I tried for sure. But was it my best? I don't know. I've always been pretty hard on myself. Mm-hmm. And I think it is both an asset and a liability. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that right now for me is creeping up to become a real challenge. And it's something that I'm working on. Don't know that I'll get it right ever, but I'm certainly progressing because I want to be the best dad that I can be for my daughter. I want to be the best partner I can be for my wife. Mm-hmm. I want to be the best steward I can be of this business and of people's time and attention. And shit, it's hard to do all three. It's hard to be the best at all three. So, I'm struggling with that.
Oh,
but I know I'm growing because of it. So that's
so
how I've
fair.
That's how I've reframed it. Yeah, that this is a growth opportunity.
I love that. It's so fair, so honest, so rich. You and I have more in common than what we think, my friend. And I wonder often if achievers. I mean, we're all about achieving something in life, but I think you and I are invited, and we all are invited to mature the achiever forward, and what it looks like to actually approach things with inclusion, with integration instead of elimination. And I'll never forget, I was at a Tony Robbins Date with Destiny event. I've been to a few of them, but a few years ago, I went to Date with Destiny. And one of the things he mentioned there is commanding and demanding of yourself. That's what creates decisive action. And I love that. And so I really integrated that in my life. And sure enough, I mean, it can really become the spike protein to me being harsher on myself than ever. I thought I was being loving, but it brought a lot of action. It brought a lot of change. I'll tell you something though, years after I aligned with the coach, and the coach, he's hearing me say these things and I was crushing it, like doing stuff and delivering and value. And he goes, my only thing is when I observe you is, well, this is what he said to me. And this just threw me for a beautiful tip. He said to me, you know how you get poked and it's like the guy pokes you not to take you down, but to help you along, basically, and he pokes me in the rib. He just says, listen, I think that's really nice. The only thing that I'm wondering, commanding and demanding of yourself, where's the compassion there? And I'm like, you know what, here's the interesting thing. So I'm not trying to solve anything for you and I, but it's like the beautiful tension of wanting to deliver and realizing we're just a person, but we have expectation of ourselves, but we also have appreciation. And anyway, so to hold that container, there's so much. And I think what comes alive for me when I think so much, it's like, I look at you, my friend, you and I are wearing about the same thing today, which is a black shirt. Our shoulders get to be wide in real time if we let it. If we let it. The good news is that's come to serve you today. You're pressed from all sides. Why? Because that's what makes a diamond. And you're not running. You're not checking on to the first bus that goes by. You're staying put. You're watching it expand in here, and you're realizing you don't have to have a negative response or a fearful response. You're having these feels, but you're just going through it. So my friend, I got so much respect, so much honor for you. Just a brilliant play. Gregory, tell the audience, if you would share, impart some wisdom in their life, and please, wisdom with moderation.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, right? What can you share with the audience?
Well, I think the most valuable thing I could share with them is probably a better explanation of what those 7 keys are. Because they're smart enough that they're already investing time to learn from you and to enjoy this podcast. So they're smart enough to go and find some resources to develop one of these 7 skills for themselves. So the best thing they could do would be to take out their smartphone and text the word keys, KEYS, to the number 33777. So if you text keys to the word text the word keys to the number 33777, I'll email you a one sheet. I'm not going to spam you, or, you don't get put into a funnel where you get 10 emails from me a day or any crap like that. It's just simply the best way to get this info to you. And then you can see for yourself, what are the benefits of each of these keys, and decide one that you're interested on, and go watch a TED Talk on it, or read a book or a magazine article, or just think about it for the day, and you'll be amazed at the growth. So that's really what I believe, in terms of wisdom, would benefit your audience most, is continuing their growth. And they're already doing it because they're investing their time with you. I'm honored and thankful that you invited me on here and allowed me to invest some time with them too. And I had a great time pretending to be your mom for an hour. So,
hey, my friend, hey, you are so generous with your words, and that's what I've come to appreciate about you. You're just a generous soul and who is participating with life. And, I think, it was just an honor to have you on. Honestly, I've been looking forward to this. And so thank you for that. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. And if I get this wrong, Gregory, just let me know. But you want to text Gregory at 33777, type in keys, correct, Gregory?
That's the one, KEYS keys.
Keys. And is there any other place they can find you? You have your own podcast, I think, or a website, perhaps?
I don't have a podcast.
That's
People
okay.
keep asking that. And so I'm starting to think maybe that would be something to dig into. But yeah, my website is gregoryoffner.com. I'm on all the major socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter, where I hang out most. I'm not really on Facebook, or I don't do that much on TikTok, but I may. So keep your eye peeled.
Perhaps you want to do podcasts before you do TikTok. You can do as you wish. It's no big deal. But yeah, there
I'll
you go.
just TikTok the podcast. Yeah, I'll just put that up. It's just that's what it's all right. If you follow Gary Vee, that's what it is. Just multiple content streams all over the place.
I love it. I love
this
it.
This has been great, man. Thank you.
This has been great. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again sometime soon. Thanks.
All right, y'all. Bye.
Goodbye.
With inflation rates rising, interest rates shooting up, gas prices skyrocketing, and the continued global unrest, it's easy to find what's wrong in the world. Tony Robbins says, what's wrong in the world is always available, but so is what's right. Instead of trying to hope and wish the world into a better place, it's time to make the most important decision any of us can ever make, and that is to invest in yourself. Now, you already know that I've always stood with you as you've navigated the uncertainties of life's reality. However, it's now high time that I step up and take decisive action to walk alongside your current life journey by making myself available to you in a radically new way during these challenging times. For a limited time, I'm inviting you to a 45-minute strategic business life consultation at no charge and no strings attached. This consultation is where you'll regain the reins of your life. It's where you'll gain clarity on exactly why you're stuck, moving you directly towards your optimal outcomes. I'm humbled to say, however, my clients' generous reflection of their time spent with me reveals the truth. The skills they've been able to master in a short period of time by engaging in our one-on-one strategic sessions have changed their lives in so many ways. This is the only invitation that I can fathom that will put my skin in the game of your life in such a way that will allow us to address your specific needs with precision and excellence. 45 minutes, just you and I, together on a call to get you headed in the direction you crave most. Here's what my clients report after our one-on-one sessions. A decrease in indecision, an increase in clarity, confidence, and courage, an increase in fully being able to capitalize on what's directly in front of them, an increase in impact at work, on their families, and on their communities, a decrease in pain and suffering, and a decrease in anxiety. So, if you want to move beyond old stories, get clear on where you're headed so that you can shake your world, then here's a rich opportunity for you today. Simply go to www.jamesheppner.com and stay on the page for about 45 seconds or so, and you'll see a little pop-up appear that will allow you to book in your business life consultation with me. This offer will expire and fill up. Maximizing this opportunity will set you up to reclaim and regain any of your inner power that has slowly been drawn down over these challenging times. And remember, if you want to stop the self-sabotage, raise your standards, and participate with unshakable confidence, you'll want to take the Maximize Your Life quiz found at www.jamesheppner.com/quiz right now. My sincere hope is that you've gleaned a few nuggets for yourself and a few pieces of interest that help you move forward in your unique journey. So again, I thank you for joining me here. This is James Heppner clocking out. Until next time, peace out, rock up.